حي على الفلاح.
Here's the question then. Why can't we find the barrier of Yajuj and Majuj? And we'll find people who say, we've explored the entire earth, so we should be able to find it. One more time, if Allah plans to hide something, do you think you can find it? Google Earth or no Google Earth? There's no way you'll find it. Let me tell you something about the barrier of Yajuj and Majuj. It was covered up, we said, it was molten iron, it's between two mountains, and then on top of that, molten copper. And then, for thousands of years, what happened? Mud came over it, and grass grew over, and plants grew, and rocks fell over it. So you could actually today be standing right next to the barrier, and you wouldn't be able to tell that that's the barrier. It's not like it's just a metal glass door, it's huge big gates and you can see them. They're covered now. So it's when people try to challenge Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plans like that, what a disaster. There are many caves that have not been discovered, where people constantly, as we speak, are discovering new caves. So forget the ones that we haven't discovered, leave those aside. Of the caves on earth that we have discovered and we know of their location, how many of these have we explored? Take a guess, 10%. We're still discovering caves all the time. Recently in Southeast Asia, this was a few years ago, they discovered a cave that was so gigantic that it had its own ecosystem underneath, meaning it could sustain life inside this cave. Other unexplored parts of the earth. Greenland has ice sheets that cover 80% of its landmass, basically. In June 2014, they discovered an entirely new underworld that was completely hidden, more than 1 mile beneath the sheet of ice, yani Siberia. We know Russia is the largest country on earth, and it's the largest country on earth by far. And 77% of Russia's landmass is what is known as Siberia, which is very cold, very inhospitable, and very unexplored. Now remember when we mentioned Al-Mustawfi and Ibn Hawqal and Al-Qazwini, they drew maps 1,000 years ago showing the barrier in very northern parts of Russia and the Caucasus regions. Now, suppose that the barrier of Yajuj and Majuj is in Siberia, which is 77% of Russia and extremely unexplored, very cold areas. And someone says, okay, we're going to, through Google Maps, split up Siberia amongst 200 volunteers, and we're going to search every inch of Siberia. And maybe this is the barrier right here, but when you look at a satellite image of it, how will you know? That's why there's no way you can defeat this. There's no way you can challenge this. The Amazon rainforest, that covers a span of 9 different countries. It's not just like one country that has the Amazon rainforest. It's so huge that there are 9, it goes through 9 different countries. It's 5.5 million square kilometers. That's gigantic. And there are still many species of animals that are deep inside that jungle that have not been discovered. Like we think we've discovered every type of animal and living creature. No, there are many that have not been discovered, and they'll discover new things every now and then. So to think that we've explored the earth and we've dominated and we have a handle on the situation, we don't. Further examples here. In Papua New Guinea, a lot of it, extremely dense vegetation, no roads leading to these places, a lot of it virtually unexplored. In Myanmar or Burma, largely unexplored. The Congo Basin, it covers 15% of Africa, and it's even less explored than the Amazon rainforest. What's in there? We're not saying the barrier is in there. You're saying, not you, that guy. He said, we've explored the entire earth, and we're showing that the majority of it has not been, so much of it has not been explored. So much of it, and we know where it is, and we still haven't explored it, let alone things we don't know where they are. Other examples, Antarctica, and understandably why, not very explored. 1993, that wasn't that long ago, they discovered an entire lake there. Always there, no one ever saw it. In Bhutan, they have a a law. Basically, any mountain over this number of feet is considered sacred, and no one's allowed to explore it at all. So you've got a lot of mountain ranges in that area that no one's ever gone in to explore. What do we see from this? We see that the barrier, forget the unexplored parts of the earth, it could be in the explored part of the earth. You could stand next to it and you wouldn't know. So many of these mountain ranges in the Caucasus region, so many. What if the barrier is in one of them and it's completely covered? How would you know? You would not know. So to tell me that we've explored the earth, therefore Yajuj and Majuj, the barrier isn't real, that is nonsense. Now, we examined, we said, was the barrier actual or figurative? We said it's actual. We've got actual iron, chunks of iron, we've got copper, we've got blow, we've got melting. Then we have the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says, wakes up one night and he says, Yajuj and Majuj have opened a hole this big. If this is not physically this big opening, what does it mean figuratively to open something this big? Doesn't make any sense. They will dig until they almost see the sunlight. Is that figurative or literal when you almost see the sunlight after digging? It's between two saddain. Is that figurative or literal? Allah will cause the barrier to collapse, the hadith says. When someone says, no, the barrier to collapse means He will cause them to come out. All these are very physical descriptions. Now, the other thing is that those who say the barrier is figurative, meaning it's not a physical barrier, and these are not people who are trapped, they were then put in a very embarrassing position and they had to explain who they were, Yajuj and Majuj. Who are they? If they're not behind the barrier, that means they're out. If they're out, it means they're one of these nations that are in front of us. And again, I'm going to very, very far distance myself from these opinions because I believe they're very insulting opinions. But I remember a famous speaker from Kuwait, he said, I believe, despite this issue of the barrier or not, he said, I believe Yajuj and Majuj are the Chinese and the Indians. So, basically, there are about 50 million Muslims in China. Some estimates say 100 million, we can never be sure. But let's just go with 50 million Muslims in China. And 180 million Muslims in India. This is like the second largest Muslim population is in India. And this guy from Kuwait, and what's the population of Kuwait, by the way? It's 16 people. So this guy from a country of 16 people is calling something like 230 million people, Muslims, calling them Yajuj and Majuj. And then there are other problems. The Indian people from the Indian subcontinent, look like the authentic description of Yajuj and Majuj. You know, wide faces and small eyes, and do they look like that? They don't look like that at all. So you're wrong again. Now, others said they are the Mongols. Remember our rule, go back to the earliest classes we did on this series. We said the rule is you have to match all the descriptions, not some of them. It doesn't qualify. They said the Mongols in Mongolia, they're Yajuj and Majuj. Well, you match the description, we'll give you that. But you don't match their numbers. And by the way, 3% of Mongolians are Muslims. So you're calling those Muslims Yajuj and Majuj. 2, their numbers we said are wrong. Yajuj and Majuj are incredibly many in their numbers. So that's wrong. It has to fit all the descriptions. And they're also the Mongolians, some of them are in Russia, Kyrgyzstan, Afghanistan. We said their appearance is there, but their numbers are wrong. So you have to match everything. If you say the barrier is not physical, it's figurative, you have to explain who they are on earth. You have to point to a group of people on earth right now who look like Yajuj and Majuj and have the numbers and say that's them. And that's problematic and that's embarrassing. Other myths concerning the barrier. They said it is the Great Wall of China. Where do we even start? Like, it's just sad how sometimes people say things without exploration, without thinking, without extending that thought. The Great Wall of China, first of all, is not between Saddain at all. It's not a dam or a barrier between two mountains. Not at all. Number 2, it's not even a continuous wall. It's so sad that people are saying, oh, it's the barrier. It's not even a barrier. The Great Wall of China, if you look at a map of it, it twists and turns, and it was not built by Dhul Qarnayn. 2, it was built by different dynasties, like they'll build this portion and this portion. It does not even go through China, or even it's not even one continuous wall. Did you know that? To say it's a barrier. Yani if that were the barrier, then Yajuj and Majuj would just walk to the end of it and just say, hello, we're coming out. It's not even continuous. There are many openings in it. And then the other thing is, it's not built of iron and copper, it's built of brick, stones. So it just doesn't even begin to match. And the Chinese are out. If you're saying it's the Great Wall of China and it's trapping the Chinese, well, that's a very bad trap, because they're everywhere and they are giving people great deals on products that are made in China. Anyways, the point is, it just doesn't make any sense. Has anyone ever found the dam of Yajuj and Majuj? The Khalifa al-Wathiq billah, he had a dream that the dam, or the dam of Yajuj and Majuj was open. So he woke up disturbed, and he commissioned a man by the name of Salam al-Turjuman, who took 60 men with him, and they went out looking for the barrier, and they actually found the barrier of Yajuj and Majuj. Documented everything, described it, and then came back and lived to tell about it. The story of Salam al-Turjuman coming up next time, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.